Can you tell me your name, your age and your regiment, please?
My name is Sidney Mitchell, S-I-D-N-E-Y, by the way, not S-Y. Sidney Mitchell, and what was the other thing you wanted to know?
Your age and the regiment.
Age?
Yeah.
I was born on the 23rd of July, 1919.
What regiment did you serve in?
And I joined the Royal Corps of Signals.
Thank you. Okay, Sidney, what can you remember of joining the Royal Corps way back?
Do I remember joining them? It was almost a bit of a laugh, because this would be in 1937, 2 years before the war started. And in those days, everybody knew, because of what Hitler had been doing, going through Europe, gobbling up all the countries and what have you, that there was going to be a war, because he would be coming to Britain before long. So men at my age thought, well, we better join up now and not wait until we're called up or until anything further happens. So most of the chaps at my age, certainly where I was working at the time, which was in Lloyd's, London, all decided to join the territorials. And the nearest territorial unit to me, and I was living in Chelsea at the time, the nearest army unit was at Putney, at the foot of Putney Bridge. And so I went along then and volunteered and joined up in the territorial. That was in 1937. And we spent 1 year training at Corp Castle, where we was encamped for a couple of weeks training. And that was the beginning of my army career in 1937. I was called up in 1939, when the war broke out. There was an announcement on the radio that all territorials and reservists were to report to their army camp that day. That was 1 or 2 days before the war was actually declared. And I was, as I say, working at Lloyd's in London. That's insurance people. And I remember sitting there with all the work piled up on our desk, and in the office where I was, there must have been about 20 or 30 young fellows exactly the same age as me, or more or less. And there would be a number of young girls working there as well. Anyway, at 4 o'clock that afternoon, the BBC ordered all us territorials and reservists to report to our depots. So it was a great delight, because I remember it so vividly. We had one of those desks to sit on, where at the back, we opened up the back, and where it was empty, and all the files that were stuck on our desk to work on, we gathered up and stuck at the back of the desk. And we all said, oh, to the girls, and there was only a few of them, good luck, you know, you've got all this work to do now. And off we went to war, effectively. So I went home, and when I got home, it was in Chelsea, at the Hortensia Road, and a lot of excitement about, and what have you, and they heard what was on the radio, and there was a lot of young fellas there, and I had half a uniform by that stage, because I've been into the territorials for a couple of years, and there was all the flags were out and waving, and I remember getting a bus at the end of the road to go to Putney, and everybody was cheering and waving, and Mother was there. My father was in hospital at the time from the First World War, and everybody was cheering and crying and waving flags and what have you. We were great heroes going to war thinking we'd never come back. Anyway, we went off on the bus, and when we got to Putney, there was by then there was a couple of hundred of us there, young fellas, and when we got there, they didn't know what to do with us. And after a while, they said, "Well, you all better go back home and come back in the morning." And of course, that was a real anticlimax, because after all, waving goodbye, thinking it was we'd never see them again, I came back on the bus, and about 2 hours later, there was a real anticlimax of what it was. So we spent the night there, and we went back the following morning, and then started our training properly. That was my first. To answer your first question, do I remember the outbreak of war?
Okay, so the next day you do go off when you start your training.
Oh yes.
And where did you go for your training? And what was it? What you've been in a clerical position. How did you find that training?
Full of excitement, not knowing what we're doing. First of all, we went there, and being in the signals, I didn't know what it was. It was just an army area. I didn't realise it was the signals. I wasn't particularly interested in the signals. But the first load of training we done when we were there was to learn the Morse code. Because you see, in the signals, we had wireless sets to operate, to communicate from one part of the unit to the other. And we had cable for the telephones. You used to lay the cables for the telephones. And the telephones was done. And then we had dispatch riders who used to drive around on motorcycles, delivering what messages that was necessary. That was the main method of communication with the signals. So one of the first things we had to learn was Morse code. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you.
Do you know what Morse code was?
Dot, 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 dash, dash.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing we had to learn. And that was transmitted over the radio, the wireless, from one place to another. And that's what we was concentrating on for the first year. And we had arms drill and use of the firearms. We had a Lee Enfield's 303 rifles, just contained about a dozen bullets, and we'd had firing of them. So that generally is what the training was for the first year. Before I went abroad to the Middle East then, after 12 months.